Hi, I'm John Mallows. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Thursday. Glad you're here. Today we're going to focus on business, a local business that serves not only the community but humanity in 5 different counties, my friends. 436 Me TV option 11. We have the CEO, the executive director, and whatever other title he has, he is here today to talk to you and how you can help and donate. 436 Me TV option 11. Back in a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Back here on the program, the focus is on business today, my friends, but I do want to talk a little bit about politics because my guest today did work in local government, and it certainly has been a different political climate now than it was back in the 90s or even in the early 2000s. I don't think we're hearing the rhetoric. I mean, just look at the front page of the Fresno Bee today with the shooting that took place in Washington, D.C. Congressman, Republican congressman at that, being the focus of and the target of a lone gunman who really was a Bernie Sanders supporter. And he came out, he was disgruntled, he was unemployed, living in a van for a while in D.C. from what I understand. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but the main focus will be on business and how you can help out this local 501c3 because it does serve 5 different counties and has been helping out for a very long time right here in the Central Valley. Hey, tomorrow's program we got Sam Shima. He is the owner of Gymnastics Beat. Remember that old building that he was in? He got the heave-ho, he got the boot because of high-speed rail. He'll be here. He was supposed to be here the other day, but as you know, we've been off the air live for the last couple of days trying to reboot our system here. Now we're back up and running. Happy about that. In the meantime, you're watching us live on Comcast Channel 375 as usual, my friends. It's Comcast Cable TV. And if you don't have Comcast Cable TV, not to worry about it, because 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning, a live call-in show. You can watch us at 43.6 and 13.1 over-the-air broadcast with one of those digital television antennas that we have hanging here from the ceiling at Ventura TV, so not a problem. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if you'd like, at your pleasure, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 YouTube comes the replay, and then again, another replay on yet another station, a different station at that, 4.6 Biz TV at 8 o'clock, and then after that it's on YouTube. We will get into a little bit about politics, not too much. We'll just kind of graze the surface a little bit because on Monday Dennis Hart's going to be here, so we're going to touch on the shooting, of course, that took place in D.C. Yesterday. Tragically, everybody is on edge, nerves are on edge, and quite frankly, a lot of people saying and thinking that surprised this hasn't happened sooner. Anyway, today's focus is on business right here in the Central Valley, and even though many people have climbed out of their economic doldrums, there are still a lot of people, thousands of people here in the Central Valley who are in need. In need of what? In need of food. I want to roll the videotape and show you exactly what I'm talking about today. We're talking about the Community Food Bank. Tell you what, there are plenty of places you can go for help. The Poverillo House, the Fresno Rescue Mission, Catholic Charities, and the Community Food Bank. The food bank, as I said, serves about 5 counties: Fresno, Madera, Kings, Tulare, and Kern. Overall, that's about 3 million people. And the real need is for those people living in the rural areas. This is the warehouse there where they stock the food up at the Community Food Bank. The question I've always had is, and I've always wondered in the back of my mind, how many pounds of food does the food bank need to serve its people? And where does all that food come from? Hey, those are 2 natural questions, right? They go through about 40 million pounds of food every year, and on average, that's about 3 million pounds a month. Where does it all come from? Well, many people donate. Of course, that's a natural answer. We'll also talk about food safety today, expiration dates, use by and best by dates. All those are questions. And what about those canned foods? How long do they last? And can you go by those expiration dates? And hey, my friends, what if that can has a dent in it? Can you still use it? Should you still eat those beans in that can? And what about peanut butter? Should I put it in the fridge or not? Here to answer those questions and much more as we take a look at bananas and other food items there at the Community Food Bank, a great organization. Live in our studio right now is Andy Souza. He is the CEO. He is the executive director. He's all of the above at the Community Food Bank here in the city of Fresno. I might add, he is also the former city manager for the city of Fresno, having worked under Mayor Alan Autry. 436-MeTV option 11. We'll get to our guest. We'll get to our program. The Community Food Bank serving 5 counties right here in the Central Valley. And remember, there are a lot of people in need right now, even though, you know, the economic times, they say that it's on the way up. It has been crawling and inching up since about 2008 or 2009, since the crash. But still, there are many people, even working people, that are in need of food. Back in just a moment.
Revin is now on KVHF channel 4.4.
Back here on the program, and the Community Food Bank certainly serving the Central Valley for many years. The CEO, the president, the executive director here, Andy Souza. Good morning. How are you?
John, good morning. Thank you. Good. Thank you very much. It's always great to be back on your show.
Yeah, good to be back here. Let me see about this call here. We got another call coming in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What's your question?
Yeah, I have a question. There was a Central High East Campus student that got murdered a couple weeks ago, I guess, on the west side at some party. And they said that it was a gang-affiliated shooting. I believe that girl's last name was Foster, and I heard a rumor that she could possibly be Keith Foster's niece. Is there any way that you can confirm that and bring that back to the show on Monday, John?
Yeah, we could talk about that on Monday. Today is the Community Food Bank, but yeah, that was Keith Foster's niece, and I do want to touch on a couple of things maybe before we get into the Community Food Bank, which serves humanity, as I said, very well. And you've been the executive director there for how long, Andy?
Just under 7 years, John.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
It's a difficult job, especially in this economic times that we live in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you touched it on the intro, John. We've got rural communities that are just really struggling right now. We've seen the economics in the urban areas, Clovis, Fresno, have come. We're not where we were before the Great Recession, but they've come back. But yeah, the rural communities are just really devastated right now.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you, before I
Yes.
get into the gritty details about the Community Food Bank, and there are a lot of details about the food bank. It's been around a long time. As we turned on the news yesterday and we heard about what's going on early in the morning, and then we open up the papers and we see, this is obviously a little late because this was like more than 24 hours ago that this happened. You worked in local government for a long time. You were not an elected official. You
Correct.
were part of city government, the city manager for a long time. In your opinion, is it a different climate now than it was when you were serving?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the underlying climate, there's always been tension in government. It's people are passionate about their government. They're passionate about their beliefs. They're passionate about how we should govern. John, I think the trade-off now is the fact with such instant media access, the electronic age, your phone, your iPad, there's a race to be first. And that intensifies what were, normally calmer situations. They intensify. So, yeah, the yes side of the answer is it is a much more difficult situation right now, simply because the intensity is far greater than it was even back in the 25 years I was at City Hall.
But not only just with social media and the media per se, but just politics in general, whether you're a conservative, whether you're a liberal, is there more angry rhetoric and finger pointing on both sides?
Absolutely. I had the opportunity. We have most of our elected officials come alongside us at the food bank, or be it distributions. Had a chance to talk with one of our congressional representatives, and he shared what's frustrating is the
Can you
fact
share
that
which one? Or?
I'd rather not, just
Okay,
because
all right.
I don't think he would mind, but I just don't know that
Yeah,
would
it's
be appropriate.
okay.
But he shared that the challenge is when you're back in D.C., the goal of the minority party is to become the majority party, and the goal of the majority party is to stay the majority party.
That's that's the goal.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you listen to the rhetoric and you think, because when you're the majority party, you get to govern and you
Right.
get to set the tone, you get to set the agenda. So there has now an environment where bipartisanship doesn't exist, because if you in any way hint that the other side is right, you're giving up power, you're giving up, influence. So unfortunately, it's such a magnified situation right now that what is lost in this is that common goal that everybody has had. I mean, if we think back when we were much younger and things in D.C. were so different, I mean, folks didn't always agree, but they were professional, they were courteous, and they got along.
How about here in Fresno? Has it toned down a little, or is it about the same as when you were in office?
It feels like it's about the same, simply because it's not as partisanship.
It hasn't gotten worse here in Fresno,
Right.
has it?
No, I don't believe it has. I think the scrutiny is certainly brighter, simply because, again, there's so many more ways of looking into how we govern. But
And many more issues on the
Many
table.
more
You
issues.
have immigration.
Yeah.
You have sanctuary city. You
Yeah.
have, all this money coming from Sacramento. You've got downtown now.
Yes. Yes.
You've got high-speed rail.
Yeah.
Those issues weren't around when you were the city manager.
No, those specific ones weren't. But we had Granite Park, we had the Met Museum.
Right.
There were,
Yeah, you had the baseball park.
baseball stadium. Yeah, those were all big items in themselves. So yeah, John, I think the underlying tensions are always there, and it's always the thing about governing is, we used to laughingly say, but it's unfortunately true. Government makes money the old-fashioned way; it takes it. And so everybody has a sense of how that money should be used, and appropriately so. And not everybody sees the same way. So if you're in a community like Fresno and you're living in southeast or southwest Fresno, infrastructure is a big issue, because it's deteriorated, it's older. If you're in northeast, northwest, you're going to have a different set of issues. So it's all about priorities, and it's all about how do we govern in a matter that is true to the entire 500,000 people that call Fresno home. I have tremendous respect for all of our mayors, all the way back through Mayor Patterson, Mayor Autry, Mayor Swearingen, and now Mayor Brand. I've had a chance to work closely with all of them. All great people, great leaders, and we just got to keep moving the city forward.
Let me ask you another quick question before I move on to the food bank, and that is, recently we saw in the news, obviously, Keith Foster, was convicted, and he's convicted on 2 felonies, federal felonies, and now he's facing all this time in prison. I know you know Jerry Dyer. You know him well.
Yes.
You work with him.
Yes.
On budgets. You sat across from him during meetings.
Yeah.
How do you think this has affected him and the Fresno Police Department?
Jerry and I haven't talked specific on this. We've seen it
But
a few
knowing
times since
what you
then.
know.
But knowing Jerry, it rocked him hard, I'm sure, because we all thought the world, and do think the world of Keith as a person. But this was a situation that, whatever happened behind the scenes, I don't know what drove him to that situation. But he and Keith and Jerry were very close, and probably still are. And so that and whenever a situation happens that is so unexpected and so unanticipated, it is. And I know Jerry well enough to know that he's probably done some very serious soul searching through this process. Probably looking back at, wow, was there something I should have seen, or was there something that maybe happened? But yeah, I'm sure it has been tough on Jerry.
Yeah, it has been. You just hope, because we've talked about it on this program many times, you just hope that the citizens of this area, the Central Valley and Fresno per se, have not lost confidence in the police department.
Right.
Because certainly we need public safety. We need
Right.
fire. We need police.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree with you, John. I hope losing confidence in public safety is always it's a struggle, and if it
Yeah.
happens, and I think we're blessed to have both in our police and fire departments tremendous organizations from the top, Jerry, all the way down through the 700 firefighters, police officers, from Kerry Donis to the 200 plus firefighters. They are, very talented, capable men and women who do
We're
a lot to protect
understaffed
us.
in both areas.
We certainly are. I mean, it was one of the things we always struggle with back in my years at City Hall, all the way through the finance side as controller up to eventually city manager, is, there's, I don't know that the community can ever have enough safety. I mean, that's really, when folks look at their local community, look at local government, you look at two things. You look at, am I safe, and what does it look like out my front door? Are my streets clean? Are they paved? Is the community? And both of those are very personal.
Yeah, and it's as the CEO of the food bank. I want to roll a videotape before we go to break here. Let's boxes. Let's do boxes, Kerry, because you're in charge. I mean,
Yes.
you were in charge of the entire city of Fresno.
Yes.
What have you brought the last 7 years to the food bank to make sure that this is
Yeah.
a financially solvent 501c3?
Right.
The food keeps coming, the money keeps rolling in,
Yeah.
so you can serve these 5 counties. What's your biggest concern? That it's going to dry up?
John, the biggest concern, as you mentioned, is always resources, simply because we don't operate without the generosity of this community. We have about almost a $5 million annual budget, and we raise through grants, through specific donations, through foundations, about just under $4 million of that every year. So it is a heavy lift each year, but it also speaks of the great support we have across this valley. Earlier on, you mentioned, where our food comes from. Over half of the food we distribute is donated local produce, donated from right here. Farmers, packing houses, growers, shippers. It's donated directly to us, which we then turn around in very quick time and get it out to these families that, many of whom don't have the financial luxury of purchasing produce. It's produce, when you by the time you get to the grocery store, it can be a pretty expensive item. So it's that generosity that has been a big part of how we've gotten where we are.
Andy, have you gotten a handle as to who is coming into the food bank and why they're not able to make ends meet? Have you talked to some of these people?
We do, and we have a client tracking system that we folks give us their information, and we try to work with them on are there people we can connect them with. And John, it runs the full gamut. I mean, we have situations where people still, while they're back at work, and so they're no longer a statistic of the recession, they may have been making $18, $20 an hour before the recession, and now they're making 12, 13. So they don't need us every month, but they might need us that month that the transmission goes out, or if you have an unexpected medical bill. So we do, over 70% of the people we serve are actually working poor, have worked within the last year. So that's a big part of it. And one of the things we try to do is connect them with other services. You mentioned Catholic Charities, a great agency of ours that do great wraparound services to address the whole situation people are dealing with.
Yeah, and so you see return customers then?
We do, John, and we saw a lot of it during the recession, and then I was not here in the previous recession, obviously, but talking with other folks at other food banks, most folks saw when the previous recessions would end, folks would no longer need the service. Collectively, we're all saying now they don't need us as much, but folks are still struggling to get completely back to where they were.
I got to take a break. I want to
You
ask
bet.
you, which and you've been on here quite a few times in the last 5 years, but
Yes.
not recently. But one of the questions I want to know is the difference between being the CEO of this place,
You
the
bet.
Community Food Bank, which is
Right.
a great organization, and being almost like the CEO of the city.
Sure.
People think that the mayor runs the city. Mayor Alan Autry didn't run the city. You actually ran the city financially. It's the city
Sure.
manager, right?
For
the most part.
Sure. On the day-to-day operations, it is
Yeah.
the city manager.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. 436 MeTV option 11. If you want to join the program, Andy Souza is here, and if you want to donate, we'll let Andy give you that information as to you can call in, donate with a check, maybe a credit card, or call in, or whatever you want to do. Maybe do it on the internet. I don't know. We have a call now. Let's take that before we go to break, Carrie. Let's see here. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air with Andy Souza. Go ahead.
Good morning. I have a question regarding the food. I used to pick it up when I could, but now I can't, and I'm wondering, do you have a source for people who are shut in to receive the food?
We, at the food bank itself, we do not, but we have agencies who do. And so if you would call our office at 237-3663 and use I believe extension 106. That will get you
Okay,
into the
let me get a
system,
pencil.
and they can
Could you give me
certainly
that number again, please?
get you. I'm sorry.
Could you give me that number again, please? I need to grab a pencil.
Sure.
To
It
the
is
source where
237.
they deliver food.
We do not personally deliver food, but we have agencies that can put you in contact with folks who do. So that number is
Oh, okay.
237-3663. And if you start with extension 106, that's Jabel Duca. She could probably be the best person to get you in touch.
Okay, 237-3663.
Yes.
Extension
Thank you
106.
so much.
You bet. Have a great day now.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for calling. And if you have any questions, you can call our number at 436-ME-TV, option 11. And again, that number that Andy gave out for the food bank is 237-3663, extension 106. And you can call and talk to the person, whoever answers the phone there with your problem. So that's a good question about delivering food. All right, back in a moment here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place. When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Back here on the program with the CEO and the Executive Director of the Community Food Bank, Andy Souza, the former city manager here in the city of Fresno. And you were lucky that you got to meet the last two presidents,
Yes.
both President Donald J. Trump
Yes.
and President Barack Obama. Now, you met Donald Trump before he became president.
Yes.
Running horse.
Yes. Running Horse Project.
Man, what year was that?
That would have been 2005, 2006. No, maybe 7, 2006 and 2007.
That was a long time ago
Yeah,
to me.
it really
I
was.
mean, to me,
Well,
it just
10
seemed
years.
like eons ago.
Yeah.
So what was he like?
You know, it was interesting. That was, pre-Apprentice and all those shows, but we found him to be, he had a personality when the media was there. He rose to that. But behind the scenes, when you were either meeting with him or on the conference calls, he was, like most developers. I mean, he had a project to accomplish, and he was, looking to make it in a manner that worked for them as well as us. And so, in that sense, at that season of time, he was good to work with. A lot has changed since then. 10 years under all of our belts. But yeah, we
Was
found
he
him.
cantankerous at that time?
No, not really. Just because I think we were all focused on an opportunity to put a project together that could have really been game-changing for us here, and as well as it would have given him the opportunity to have a golf course that had a PGA golf tournament. So
Yeah.
it was really, aiming for that win-win for both of us, and it just, unfortunately didn't work out.
Yeah. Did you meet his daughter, Ivanka?
Yes, we did, and she was very, very impressive. She was out here a couple times and very bright, very well-spoken, really grasped the issues very well. So, yeah, we
Okay.
all came away very impressed.
Okay. And what about President Barack Obama?
Well, we had the opportunity to be I had the opportunity to be part of when he was out here for the drought relief back in February of 14. So it was the meeting out on the west side, and it was, that was a little bit tougher because it was only one opportunity, one day, but seemed to listen well. Unfortunately, didn't have a lot of positive results from the meeting because, water is a pretty complex issue. But yeah, he did come by, and Joe Del Bosque was, gracious enough to have him out at his place as well. So, it's still some continuation of that.
So did the president, I'm talking about Barack Obama, did he come by the community food bank, or did you meet him on the west side?
No, we met at the West Side meeting. He was not able to
Okay.
be. USDA Secretary Vilsack was scheduled to come
Yeah.
that morning to meet us at the food bank, but unfortunately, there were some conflicts with media and other scheduling that he had to cancel. So,
Yeah. And you didn't talk, did you talk to the president one-on-one?
I just had a real brief moment. Like you and I amongst the group, had a chance to just real quickly share, the elevator speech, the impact of the valley, the impact of
Yeah.
water. here we are in this fertile region, and yet, so many of our families are still struggling.
Did he fully understand the depressed state that we're in here financially in the Central Valley? People have called
Sure.
this area the Appalachia of the West.
I don't know that he fully did, because I still think when you people look at California, John, outside of here, I'm on Feeding America's couple national committees. People tend to think of California as Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, and they don't realize that in many ways, California is 3 states. You have the Northern Bay Area, you have the LA Basin, and then you have the Central Valley, and we tend to be lost in that discussion.
Yeah, it really is kind of sad. But let me ask you, as we roll some more videotape, let's go to the forklift. And I want to
Yes.
ask you about the square footage
Yes.
inside the food bank. What's the square footage?
We are inside a 50,000 square foot building.
Okay.
We have fast outgrown it. We are working with a couple of folks, and one in particular, for an opportunity to get our own building. We're leasing this one to get our own building, which would be about 120,000 square feet. So we're looking to continue
To
that
build
process. No, to acquire one. Acquire one
Okay.
that will be up in the market
can
in about a year,
purchase.
that we'd be able to purchase. So
And what area of town?
it's still out in the same general area we're at. Pretty good 99 access, and to have that 100,000 square feet would really allow us to have, obviously get that much more food in, because as you can see on the pictures, and if you have a chance to come out to our warehouse, we're packed pretty tight. But having said that, John, you mentioned we distribute over 3 million pounds of food a day, and we keep about 2 million pounds in stock. So we're turning that inventory warehouse at least once a month. So
Yeah.
it is
I think it's about 3 million a month, isn't
Yes,
it?
3 million a
a
month. Yeah.
That's a lot of food. And
It's
right
a
now
lot of
you
food.
have on hand, what, about 1.5 million pounds?
About 1.5 million to 2 million pounds of food on hand.
Yeah.
And so we, if to put it in context, it may be easier for folks to understand. It's between 6 and semi-truckloads of food a day coming in and out of our warehouse. So
Being the CEO of this company, it's
Yes.
a private company. It's a 501c3.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge or the biggest difference, maybe, between this job and, say,
Sure.
being the city manager? You were pretty much the CEO of the city. Biggest difference?
John, I think the biggest difference, City Hall, as you can imagine, is pretty intense, and there's a lot of moving parts. 14 departments doing everything from an airport to parks to public safety, and so you literally, when you sat down in the morning, you buckled the seatbelt and hung on, because it was going to be a long day. Food bank, it's not that intensity, but it's an intensity of mission, because knowing that if we are not stretching every dollar as far as we can, there are families and possibly children that are going to be going to sleep hungry because we just didn't go far enough. So it's a different stress and a different intensity, but much more fulfilling from the sense of when you go to a distribution and you see the food that you've been able to acquire and see a young child clutch, a clamshell of strawberries like it's a Christmas present. It brings things back into perspective real quick.
So it affects you emotionally.
It does, and
How so?
You just, first of all, you're just thankful that folks support us enough that we're able to do this. But then you look at a child, and I think that could be my grandchild. That could be our neighbor's children. These are kids that are really struggling just for basic necessities, and then you wonder, how is that impacting them at school? How is that impacting their ability to learn? And will they be able to, through education and other means, come pull themselves out of the situation? So yeah, it can be, pretty heavy stuff.
All right, let's roll the videotape. We can do the short version of the monologue. How about that, Carrie? We'll do that one and roll the videotape out there. We're looking at more of the outside of the community food bank.
Yeah.
But when you were the city manager for the city of Fresno, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know every responsibility that you had, but you had to make decisions, possible cuts, that could affect a lot of families
Yes.
across the board.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was more intense than what you're doing now, because you're affecting maybe fewer people, or am I wrong about that?
No, John, it was the intensity at City Hall was just the vastness of the issues. You could have a police officer involved in shooting. You could have, fires break out, parks and recreation situations. So there was just a daily intensity of having, almost 4,000 employees at any given moment. So that intensity was there. And obviously, John, the decision could be far reaching. And One of the things
As a
you learn
city
early
manager.
as city manager, one of the things you learn early on is no matter how well you believe in a decision you make, somebody's going to be adversely affected. It's just the nature of that work. So even when your heart of hearts, you believe it's the right thing, this is going to affect somebody maybe in a different way. So the moment you begin to not grapple with that is usually when it's time to begin doing something else.
Yeah, let's say that you had to make a decision about, not adding 5 or 10 more police officers or 5 or 10 more firemen.
Right.
At some point, maybe it would affect somebody down
Sure.
the line in the city of Fresno in an
Right.
adverse situation.
Yeah.
Where it's a little bit different at the food bank, right?
It's different at the food bank because knowing that the decisions are impacting people daily.
Okay.
Yeah, folks that come, in our lines are really struggling just to get to the end of the month. And so oftentimes if we're not, if we don't have enough produce or we don't have enough food for that distribution, folks are going to go back home and may not have a couple of meals by the end of the week. So it is it's a much more one-on-one. It's much more micro, and so when you look into the faces of the individual families you're serving, it becomes very personal.
Okay, Andy Souza is here. He is the CEO and the Executive Director of the Food Bank here in the city of Fresno. You can call in at 436-MeTV option 11. We've had one call so far. We have an open phone line, half hour to go. Back in a moment.
Frigidaire. It means the first electric refrigerator. The first compact electric range. Now, there's the Frigidaire Gallery Range with Symmetry double ovens. It's designed to cook multiple dishes at multiple temperatures, so you can prepare the entire meal at the same time. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
The following is a list of celebrities you will not see on MeTV programs. Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Lohan, Snooki, Paris Hilton, Perez Hilton, Honey Boo Boo, Justin Bieber, Simon Cowell, Chris Brown, Miley Cyrus, and the Real Housewives of any place. This is who you will see on MeTV programs. Lucy, Ralph, Mary, Perry, Gilligan, Kenneth, Spock, Batman, Rowdy, Festus, and the Beaver. MeTV. Thanks for watching.
Back here on the program, Andy Souza is here. Let's roll the videotape on overhead. We'll roll the videotape and take a look at some of the items on the show. You mentioned, Andy, that as we look at the boxed items here,
Yes.
what are these items here? Just food, right?
It's all kinds of different food. And you mentioned earlier in the show today, peanut butter, canned goods, dry goods. It's a little bit of everything. A lot of what you'd see at a Costco. Very, very similar type.
Kind of
items.
looks like Costco.
It
in
does,
there.
doesn't it? With our racking and all our stacked goods and
Yeah,
pretty much so. So we have that. What you would expect to see at a Costco or a Save Mart, much of which we have there.
Yeah, and so you mentioned to me earlier when we were talking on the phone, you said that, and even today you mentioned that half of your contributions come from local farmers.
Yes.
Part of your contributions come from Chicago. Can you explain that?
Sure. We're part of the Feeding America Network, and
Okay.
as part of that, it is a national association of the 200 largest food banks. And because of that national affiliation, we deal oftentimes with your national product, your General Mills, your Kellogg's, your Cargill, and through Feeding America, they're able to obtain food at a deeper discount or often donated that then is distributed out through the network. So we get a significant amount of, especially dry goods, your cereals, your shelf staples, from different places across the country.
So no dairy or fruits and vegetables are shipped from Chicago, right?
Correct. Yes,
Okay,
that's all
it's
done
just-
locally. Yeah,
That's all done locally.
That's all done
All
locally.
right. And a lot of the food, does the food bank just go out and purchase food?
Sometimes, different items like peanut butter, for example, is one that's not donated very often. So we have resources that we're just slightly below wholesale pricing on those, but we're able to buy those. Rice, your potatoes, we get at a great discount through a farm to family program of our state association. So we do a good share of purchasing, but the vast majority is donated directly to us, which is how we can stretch those dollars so very far.
Let's talk about food safety.
Yes.
What's your biggest concern besides, obviously food becoming stale, old, rotten?
I think food safety is something that matters to all of us, and especially in a food bank situation where we're dealing with donated product, and yet we want to make sure that what gets to the families is not something that's going to make anybody ill. So we have very specific food safety standards from Feeding America, from the USDA, through and we just adhere to them. Cleanliness of the warehouse is huge, as you can imagine, as well as tracking dates, acquisition dates, distribution dates, and when you get into the frozen products or your fresh meats, we really watch that very close.
What about expiration dates? There are expiration dates on cans, on milk, on everything. Even boxed cereal, there's an expiration date. So there's a use by date, sell by date, use by date, expiration date, all these dates. So what matters and what doesn't?
So to the general public, the biggest one that matters, I would say, is sell by, because that's when the store has to have it sold and off there, because you'll usually find that on your perishable products, your milk, your other dairy products, your cold cuts in your meat counters. Those sell by dates are real specific because that is dealing with more of a safety than a quality issue. When you see Best By, that basically is saying the best taste is going to be by this date, and you still have a significant amount of time that it's a healthy, safe product. It just, you may not have the highest quality of taste, or you may not have the quality of color, but it's certainly still a consumable product.
The expiration date pretty much speaks for itself.
Yes.
If it's expired, don't eat it. Or drink it.
Yeah, exactly. Use sell by and expiration. But if you get, like, for example, canned goods, a can of soup that will say, Best By, you usually have, the rule of thumb is usually have probably a year or so after the actual date, and the product is still good. It may be a little bit discolored, or it may not feel quite as fresh, but it's as long as the can isn't dented, or you're not seeing something, any rust around the edges, you're usually in good shape.
Okay, let me ask you about this sell-by date again here. If I go and I go to the community food bank and I pick up, say, a bag of salad, romaine salad.
Romaine salad.
And it says sell by August 23rd.
Right.
Okay, let's say I go in on August 23rd and I purchase there or get that item there, or even purchase it from the store, it doesn't matter. How many more days do I have after that before I have to discard it?
A rule of thumb is usually 3 days to a week. If you, like milk product, if you don't get it opened and consumed within a week, you should probably, and I hate to say toss it, but it's really a safety issue. So sell-by dates, you usually have about a week, because you'll find sell-by dates on very perishable products.
Okay, what about cans that are dented?
Minor nicks or dents, not a big, but if you see a significant dent, you probably want to be careful with that, because that could have damaged the insides. If you see rust or anything on the seams of a can, you want to be very careful, because you don't want anything getting inside that can, which can cause, the food to really become unsafe.
Yeah. So if there's a question mark, just discard it.
That's always a good rule of thumb. If you have a concern, and if it doesn't smell or look completely right, be careful on that.
All right, take the call here. Good morning, caller. You're on Connect with Me with Andy Souza. What's your question?
Yeah, I feel stupid because I got the extension 206, but I didn't get the phone number about the deliveries to the home.
Okay, it's 237-3663, and it's extension 106.
Okay, 237.
3663, extension 106.
3366.
Yeah, 3663, extension 106.
Oh, 3636.
Yeah, it's 237-3663, extension 106. And Andy, go over that again. You don't deliver, but
no, we don't deliver, but we have agencies who either deliver or can help folks get to that product. So,
what about Wheels on Meals or Meals on Wheels?
Meals on Wheels is a good one. The Fresno Madera Area Agency on Aging for Seniors has a good project. So those are both good locations as well.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because like I have congestive heart failure and bad knees and a bad back, and I don't drive. So that's the reason why I was asking if there's somebody that delivers the food to the house.
Yeah, those are two really good organizations, Meals on Wheels and the Area Agency on Aging.
Okay.
All right, but
Okay, thank you.
call that number that we gave you, and
Yep.
they'll help you out there. Appreciate the call and good luck to you, sir. So we got to go to break here. 436 MeTV option 11. If you have any other questions to call in, remember they don't deliver, but if you need help, you can call 237-3663 extension 106, and the food bank will direct you to the right place to get your food delivered to your home. And back here in just a moment, I'll connect with me on MeTV Fresno.
After God created the world, He made man and woman. Then, to keep the whole thing from collapsing, He invented humor. Sub, a perfect reason to rejoice. A distinctly positioned channel in the crowded Hindi general entertainment channel space. It is India's only family comedy entertainment channel with a core brand promise of असली मजा सबके साथ आता है. देख रहा हूँ. Which means celebrate the joy of being together. Taking humor as a universal language, the shows on Sub are light-hearted and make up for an enjoyable family viewing experience. Indeed.
असली मजाक सबके साथ आता है.
अब तो सबको पता है यार.
Sub TV is now on digital channel 31.8.
You know, here's something I just thought of in the break, Andy. I mean, Uber can't go to the airport, but maybe you can hire Uber to pick up the food at the community food bank, because you open Uber with welcome arms, don't you?
3403 East Central is where we're at. So.
That's exactly right. I want to roll the videotape on produce, Carrie. Roll the videotape on produce. And caller, I know that you're there. You're waiting anxiously to talk to Andy Souza. He is the CEO and the executive director of the food bank. What is your question, caller? Go ahead.
I had a couple of questions. I don't know about Meals on Wheels in Fresno County, but in Merced County, they only deliver once a week, and they give the folks frozen foods. It's not a everyday type of thing like it used to be, and I think it's really important that it might be interesting to go back to an everyday delivery, or to kind of check in on those people. Like you heard, some people can't get out. The other question I had for the director of the food bank: have you ever thought of doing something like, this blue napkin or some of these services? They send you the food and they give you everything you need to make a meal. Like maybe giving some of the folks that get the food, meal suggestions and everything they would need to make a meal type of thing.
That's a great question. Obviously, Blue Apron and those are a new phenomenon, and we're watching those. But one of the things we do is kind of a spin-off of that is we have a Nutrition on Wheels vehicle that through Kaiser Permanente and other generous donors, that is actually our own personal food truck. We have cameras inside so folks can watch on video screens food being prepared. And what we like to do is when we roll out to a distribution, prepare the food. It might be something that folks aren't used to having. Say bok choy is a product that we have. So our nutrition staff will prepare bok choy, pass out samples, and include the recipe in the bag. So gives folks a chance to taste it once and learn how to prepare it. So we haven't reached the Blue Apron point yet, but we're trying to be as equipping as we can. Proactive is a good term, John. As equipping as possible for our clients to be able to know how to best use all the product we get to them.
Go ahead, caller.
I had one other question in regards to. Am I still there?
You are on.
I had one other question in regards to EBT, or the SNAP program. I know that's a federal program, but there's talk that the administration might be tightening up some of the guidelines. And as you know, there's a lot of fraud. If you didn't know, and maybe you do as a city manager, there's a lot of fraud in the food stamp system. It's basically known on the street, you get 50 cents on the dollar for your EBT card. If they tighten up those type of issues, do you see more pressure being put on the local food bank to make that up?
Certainly will. I mean, we're very early in this process of trying to do the numbers of what the impact would be and how those cuts would happen. But sure, if somebody is making ends meet at the month with legitimately using their SNAP benefits or CalFresh as it is here in California, and those benefits aren't available, then they're going to naturally look to the food bank and other agencies like ourselves to help make up that difference.
Yeah, that's why I thought maybe giving meal suggestions, like Blue Apron and some of these things, because I think you guys have literally all the ingredients. So I really appreciate what you're doing for the underserved.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, caller. I appreciate it. Carrie, let's roll rice and oatmeal on the video there, and let me ask you what are you in need of? What is the shortage at the food bank in terms of food? Is it dairy? Is it produce? Is it rice? What is it?
John, it's going to be your proteins, which is your fresh meats, your chickens, your peanut butter. Beans are a good one because those are products that aren't normally donated just because there's a high market for them. Oftentimes they're used before they would ever go perishable. So that's really the items that are the highest need, your quality lean proteins, because like all of us, it's an expensive item at the grocery store. So many of the families we serve just don't have access to that.
Yeah, and so can people just drive up if they want to donate food and say, here's a 5 dozen cans of beans?
They certainly can, and that's always welcome. And one of the challenges in the food bank world is there's something that just feels good about handing food that you know is going to be on somebody's table.
What can't they give? Can they not give produce and meats?
Individuals should stay away from produce and meat simply because there are specific USDA requirements of how that's been handled before it gets to us. Say, for example, somebody is going to bring us, a case of hamburger meat. And on their way, they get, I got to stop at the bank, and maybe I've got to go here. And the temperature might rise a little bit on that to where we don't know how it's been handled. So those very perishable items we have to watch versus canned goods. Yeah, they're pretty stable, and they're not going to perish like that. So certainly canned goods are always a good bet, and peanut butter and others like that.
And peanut butter, should it be refrigerated? We talked about this on the phone. I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on which type you get. Your all-natural peanut butters, it'll tell you right on the label, refrigerate after opening.
All natural meaning?
It's just a different style. I mean, the way, usually if you see the oil on the top of it when you're purchasing it, it will tell you right on the label to refrigerate. Otherwise, your traditional Jif, Skippy, type of peanut butter, I don't believe has to be. But as always the case, it's really good. Just double check on the label itself.
Okay, let's roll the videotape. But trucks and you talk about what we're seeing here. Obviously, food coming in. And some of these trucks are pulling out and going where to pick up more food?
Those are, if they're coming out of the back, they're probably going out to a distribution. And as you mentioned earlier, John, we serve food in the five counties of the southern San Joaquin Valley. It's Fresno, Madera, Kings, Tulare, and Kern. So our trucks are on the road. We have 9 trucks on the road, often running 2 and 3 routes a day. They'll go an early morning route, come back, like the truck that you're seeing backing in, get reloaded, and go out for a second and sometimes even a third route.
How many trucks do you have altogether?
We have 9 in our fleet, including a semi-truck, which we use for a lot of the big pickups that we do.
And you have van service too. There's one right there.
That's and the van is usually used for our setup and breakdown of locations as well.
Which county out of the 5 is in most need?
I think we would probably say Tulare, just because it is, we've been here and we've served Fresno County for a long period of time, and so we have a good network. The previous Feeding America Food Bank left the network 2 years ago, so we stepped in to backfill for them. And so I think right now within Tulare County, statistically and numerically, that's probably our highest need.
Is it because it's further out, it's more rural than, say, some of the other counties, and it's small, farm town?
That's part of it. I think there's also been, just because of the transition between FoodLink, which has served Tulare County for decades, stepping out of the Feeding America network and then us backfilling it, you always lose momentum. And you always lose some of those donors that may have given to one that are now giving to another. So, but we're making progress there. But it's and like you said, John, it's a rural, and it doesn't have as big of a population center as Fresno does, with obviously Fresno, Clovis.
Here's a text question. It says here from one viewer. My dad, who is 70 but able and healthy, goes to the food bank once a week to get himself, and he also gets for several of his senior complex neighbors, as they can't drive and have means to get there. is this okay, or is this looked down upon? That's the question.
No, it is okay, and usually there's documentation that's provided. They'll sign in for who they're picking it up for. It is okay because oftentimes, as we know, seniors especially, transportation can be a challenge. And so, if we have an opportunity where somebody can pick up for their neighbors and document that that's what they're doing, it is certainly okay.
And how can you verify that they're actually picking up food for a neighbor?
Well, I think most times, John, we just have to pretty much
honor
trust.
System?
It's an honor system. I mean,
Yeah.
the challenge in food banking is, inevitably, just the law of human nature tells you there may be folks that don't need it as much as others that are there. But nobody's been able to design a system that you could quote unquote verify. I use the Target example. When I shop at Target and I use my credit card, if it's less than $50, I don't have to sign for it. I just swipe it and it spits out my receipt. Target made a decision that they're going to make it easier and they'll run the risk of a few bad transactions to make it an overall better experience for the people who shop there. And we have a similar concept that by the time we tried to have folks somehow prove to us that they needed the food, we'd be losing families that would otherwise still need our service.
Yeah, let's go to the videotape. It's called Sorting through some of the food here.
Yeah.
And when someone comes in, how much food are they allowed to take away? What's the limit?
The limit is usually, John, when folks go to a distribution, is based on what's available at that distribution. We have some agencies that are very produce heavy, and so it'll be based on what produce is available that day, the volume of number of people that come through. But it's usually 4 to 5 days worth of food that folks will get when they come in.
I can walk out, so if I show up on a Sunday, I can walk out for myself and my family to take care of me and my needs for the week.
I'd say probably 4 or 5 days, depending on
and then I can come back.
Right. Yeah.
So is there a time limit as to okay, if I come in on Sunday, I can't come in again until 5 days later? Or?
Those are usually set up by the individual agencies. Like, for example, Catholic Charities, I believe, has 8 distributions a year that you can sign in and be at 8 of the 12 months.
So you can make 8 trips there.
Yes.
How many at the food bank?
We don't deliver directly from the food bank. If somebody comes to the food bank, unless it's a real crisis situation, we will normally point them to one of our agencies.
Okay, and name some of the agencies, because just to reiterate,
Sure.
You can't go directly to the food bank and get the food.
Correct.
Okay, there are agencies out there that distribute this food. So
on our behalf.
Okay, go ahead.
Catholic Charities, Boys and Girls Club has an after-school program. And again, I think the best bet is to use the 237 number, 237-3663. Call us, and if they give us their location, we can identify those agencies that are within their
Zip
access
code.
point. Yeah, zip code and neighborhood, and get folks as close as possible to where they're at.
Let's show another piece of videotape called Warehouse 1. What's your biggest concern at this point? You've been going 7 years. I know your biggest worry is always the shelves have to be stocked. There's no question about it. But your biggest concern right now is what?
John, I think the biggest concern is that, we're post-recession. The recession's over. The communities, our urban areas are doing well. The rural communities are continuing to struggle, both the drought, the changing economics of farming, and it really is, can we help those communities and the people in those communities be self-sustaining? Our goal is we'd much rather partner with folks and help people no longer need us than continue to be passing out that food.
The recession is over, but does that mean are you worried some people might get lax in their donations and helping others?
There's a little bit of that because the recession, especially the drought, were such very specific situations. But I think overall, the folks who give to us, tend to care deeply about and the mission that we're on, and knowing that, agreeing with us that nobody should have to go to sleep hungry. It's going to happen from time to time, but nobody should have to. And so it's really about just stepping alongside us and being there for these families.
Tell me a story that warms your heart about the food bank, maybe a story that has stuck with you for 7 years, that maybe a family that was in such need. We have about 30 seconds left, if you could.
So my second year at the food bank, we were doing a distribution on Martin Luther King Day with Kaiser Permanente, their National Day of Giving. It was a big distribution as well as a canned food drive. About halfway through the drive, a mom comes up with her 6-7-year-old daughter and bringing canned food to give to us. And as they were standing there talking about where to give the cans, the young girl saw that we had strawberries. And I watched her tug on her mom's sleeve and said, "Mom, they have strawberries. Can we have some?" And I saw this look, kind of just a little bit torn look on the mom. And then she stopped and she said, we're doing okay, but both my husband and I have been furloughed and we don't have as much as we'd like. Is it okay for us to go through line and get the fresh fruit? Because we just don't have a lot of fresh fruit. And of course it is. So this is someone who was bringing cans to give to those who were more in need than she was. And John, I watched that little girl take that clamshell of strawberries, and I could take you to the spot in that parking lot where she picked up that clamshell and held it like my grandkids hold their Christmas presents.
It was like $1 million. Right?
It was, and that is forever. That's one of the stories that's forever burned in my mind.
All right, sir, come back.
John, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd love to have you back.
I would love to be back as well. Always appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Andy Souza, the president and CEO of the Community Food Bank. We're glad that he took the time to come by. Tomorrow, Sam Shima, Gymnastics Beat. We'll talk about his business as well. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.